Hey, Tom, good to see you. Today we are talking about the safe investment that could soon yield almost 10%. I am talking today about I bonds because I feel like everybody is asking me about them, but I have to come to you. You're the expert. So I want to just start off the top. Of course, we know I bonds are connected to the inflation rate, hence the
Right.
I. And as you know, the CPI recently hit 8.5% year over year. We haven't seen those numbers since the 80s, of course. So just explain, please, what is an I bond and how do they work? Are they a good investment?
Sure. Let me take your second question first.
Hmm.
The answer to is it a good investment is it depends.
Hmm.
An I bond is a tool, just like a stock and an ETF and a mutual fund and a bond and uh, a life insurance and an annuity or any other type of vehicle that you put your money in, right?
Hmm.
So it depends. It depends on what you're trying to do with that tool or what you want it to accomplish for you. If we compare it to building a house, right, you can't use a saw to hammer in a nail, and you can't cut a piece of wood with a screwdriver. So you have to understand what that tool, the function of that tool, and what it's supposed to be.
Hmm.
With that said, could they be good investments? Sure. They're very conservative right now because of the economy and the state of affairs. A possible 12.5% rate of return on your money in a year's time. That's a pretty good return on your dollar.
Yeah, sounds
So,
good to me.
right. So, I mean, it certainly could be a good vehicle for people to utilize.
Okay.
Now, the I bond is just a government bond that they issue. A couple of the downsides are one, it's very minimal what you can do really in the big scope of things. It's a $10,000 limit per social security number. So a husband and wife, the most they can buy in it is $20,000 between the two of them. Um, the other downside is that you have to understand that one, interest isn't paid like a regular bond. You only collect your interest when you sell your bond or the bond matures. They are 30-year instruments. And then there is a penalty if you sell the bond within the first 5 years of owning it. So within the first 5 years, if you sell it, you're going to lose the last 3 months worth of interest.
Hmm.
So very much similar for those people who have CDs, longer term CDs. If you sell them before the maturity date, a lot of times you're getting penalized some of that interest.
Right. Okay, so I think that you kind of laid out a lot of good kind of cons to them, but you did mention CDs. So if I'm a conservative investor and my money's in CDs, the average rate there is 0.15%. So I mean, this sounds like a good alternative.
It's a good alternative when I'm comparing it to less than 1% CD. Of course, it
Right.
is. Uh, I think your expectation should be, though, that you're going to hold that I bond for at least 15 months, though, right? So if you're getting a 12% or 12.5% rate of return, you want to at least be able to capture that. And if you're going to lose the last 3 months worth of interest, if you cash it out prior to maturity, you want to make sure that you're holding it for longer than that 12 months in order to capture it.
Hmm.
There is no tax obligation during that time that you're holding it because you're not collecting it. But once you collect that interest from that I bond, if you sell it, then that's when your your tax consequences will come into play.
Okay. I feel like another investment product that always comes up during periods of high inflation are tips. So how
Right.
do I bonds compare to tips?
So again, a tip is a government instrument, but there's really no limitation on how much one person or a group can buy. So you have tips in ETFs and mutual funds, and a lot of big insurance companies and banks and investment houses invest in them. The main difference is that with an I bond, your inflation factor is based goes along with your interest rate. With a tip, your inflation factor goes along with your principal. So they're a little bit different that way. Again, there's really no limit as to how much you can buy in them. They have various maturity rates. There's 5, 10, 30-year maturity rates on them. And you're paid interest on a regular basis. I believe it's semi-annual. So whenever you get paid that interest, that's when your taxes are going to be due.
Okay, yeah, very different from the I bonds in that respect. Tom, this was helpful. If somebody would like to talk to you about I bonds versus tips versus any other ways that we're trying to beat inflation, what's the best way to reach you?
Sure. Call me at my office, 973-394-0623. Email me, tjoconnell@internationalfinancial.com. I will always try to get back to you as quickly as possible. And I enjoy answering questions, helping people. So, feel free to do so.
I know you do, and I appreciate that very much
Of
about you,
course.
Tom.
Great
Thank you
seeing
very
you.
much.